Welcome back to the movies. This is Popcorn and Beers, where some use tomatoes and others use thumbs. We use the stuff that gets you drunk. Well, it was a very interesting week, I think, for movies. I think this should be called Worst Reviewed Movies in the History of Popcorn and Beers. Because this was a rough one, and we're going to start with our butter on top. Jordan texted us that he was taking the bullet for all of us when he saw this, or he was going to see this, pardon me. And
Yeah.
it ended up becoming the drunk classic due to, August, the lull between the
The butter on
blockbusters
top.
and the Oscar movies. We have the butter on top that is Strays. So, Jordan, we'll lead with you. What did you think?
It was nothing more than or less than what I expected, and I had really low expectations. So it met my really low expectations. It got off all of its corny, raunchy dog humor, the things that you expected, the dog dad jokes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The voice acting was decent. The major roles went to major stars with their recognizable voices, but the supporting voiceovers were done by just a lot of unknown voice actor types. So that was good to see. Will Forte did a great job in the token human role to drive this story along, because it's hard to really produce a solid conflict where it's just talking dogs. So he was the protagonist antagonist, sorry, the antagonist in this, and he was funny. He was great. He's just a bad, horrible man that's very mean to his sweet little dog.
And his girlfriend.
Yeah, he's just a terrible human being all around. Make sure you watch. My one advice, going into this, make sure you watch this movie enjoying your favorite chocolate bar. You won't regret it at all. It'll be the best decision. And just my advice after watching this movie, just give your dog some love. They live for us. Dogs are great. Man's best friend. I give this a popcorn.
Popcorn.
Okay,
Can I ask
yeah,
you, both of you going into Fry, who was the biggest standout voice, like how Ice Cube was bad in Turtles? Who was good in this?
Rose Byron. Rose Byron
Oh.
for me. I'm starting to fall in love with her doing voiceovers. She was one of my favorites in Ninja Turtles. She was great in. It's because I can see her face. I think when she's
she
talking
has great
in my
expressions,
head.
so you can see it in your head. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like Tom Hanks with
yeah.
Woody. Like you can see what he's saying.
Yeah, and she plays the collie in this. If you're wondering, she's the collie.
I think you're wrong, my friend. I think you're wrong, my friend.
Okay.
It's Isla Fisher that plays the collie.
Was it Isla Fisher?
Yep.
I am wrong then.
Wow.
Who
It didn't
is?
sound like Isla Fisher. It sounded like Rose Byron.
It definitely did. You're right, and then it would be totally believable because it's like her kind of grouping, kind of.
Yeah. Same clique, same lunch
general
table
people that she's worked with. A little bit, yeah.
When I think of Isla Fisher, I think of Wedding Crashers. 'Cause I'll find you.
Yeah. Will Ferrell did great. You know who I thought was really good, and I recognized right away, but a lot of people might not, is I don't know if you know who Jimmy Tatro is from The Real Bros of Simi Valley or American Vandal. He is in 21 Jump Street or 22 Jump Street, where he plays like the football guy with the mohawk.
What's his name
He's
again?
like a character bit actor, Jimmy Tatro. Oh, he was in The Machine.
Jimmy
Anybody saw The Machine? No?
True.
He plays young Burt Kreischer in The Machine.
He's great. Yeah.
Yeah, his voice. He plays like a big Doberman in like a very small scene. He stood out to me. He's a good voice actor.
Side character in like Modern Family and a lot of other things.
Yes.
I would
Very
have to
recognizable
see him.
face. Yeah.
Sorry,
you see his
I'd have to
face,
see his
you'll
face.
know. You'll know. He looks he has the same eyes as you, Fry. Where it's kind of like that, kind of.
The character actor I wanted to highlight in this, after I look like a fool for saying Isla Fisher was Rose Byron, is the gentleman from Camping. And I can't think of his name, but he's like a balding gentleman. Typically has like long hair in the back, and he always does the comb over with the long black beard, and he has the funny voice. He plays Yeah, he plays the dog guard, not the dog catcher, the dog guard, guarding all the cage dogs. And he gives a monologue that was pretty funny about how terrible his life is. And I think he's hilarious, and he's really funny in Camping as well.
This guy,
he
Brett
plays alongside
Gilman.
Yeah, that's him.
He's
Yes,
from
that's
Christina's.
Yes. What was the movie we watched with him in it? Yes, what was that? I already forgot. Other guys, that's right. That was me too. I'm the one that watched it. That's so funny. I'm the one that reviewed that.
In that HBO series Fleabag, he's incredibly good in it, which is, by the way,
I gotta watch
Fleabag.
Series.
I've said it before. Fleabag is an incredible
It's
show.
on my list. But yeah, he was really funny in this. For me, it's a story about cute animals. It's a story about Reggie, Doug, and Bug, right? That's really what you're looking at. Reggie, Doug, and Bug. You get Randall, I can't remember his last name, but he's in all kinds of stuff as well. Ant-Man, he plays the FBI agent in Ant-Man. Randall Park, that's his name.
Oh, that guy.
And he was funny. I love the scene. There's a scene in this. If you're not into dog penises, I don't know if this is the movie for you because there's a lot of dog penis talk.
There is.
But where he's trying to get the keys and Isla Fisher's trying to turn him on to get the keys. That was probably, for me, the funniest, laugh out loud scene because you knew exactly what you were going to see. And she's trying to turn him on. I was just trying not to laugh too hard because no one else in the theater was laughing at it. But I found it endlessly hilarious with the collie trying to turn on the Great Dane. I thought that was very funny. Will Ferrell's okay. He's just okay. He's playing it down a little bit. Jamie Foxx was great. He was fantastic in it.
Get better.
Everything that you thought was going to be funny was probably in the trailer outside of the Great Dane trying to get the keys on his penis joke. But Will Forte was good. The scene with Will Forte, he gets what he deserved for sure at the end because he is a terrible person. You really hate him, which means he did a great job in the role. But there's something I wasn't expecting in this film, and you know what that was? A serial killer. I just did not see that coming with a serial killer.
Weird. That's interesting.
I was like,
that caught you off guard.
they put a serial killer in the movie. Okay. Now, I gave it a popcorn as well, but I will say something threw me off before the movie ever started, and that was in the trailers. I had a trailer for a movie called Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay? And it is a shot-for-shot theft. It is a theft of a movie. It is a bootleg of Willy's Wonderland that I reviewed earlier with Nicolas Cage. Stole shot for shot, almost scene for scene. And I'm like, how is this possible?
Five Nights at Freddy's was already like a property, like a thing, a video game or something like that before that came out. And Nicolas Cage's thing stole their thunder. Before they could put out their movie.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, well, it came out 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's has been around for a while, dude. Five Nights at Freddy's has been around for a long time.
But it hasn't been a movie. It hasn't been a movie. Nicolas Cage, if he did steal their thunder...
Nick Cage movie was entirely stolen from that video game. However...
Okay, but Nick Cage
if you have this video game, you don't have to make the same movie, especially if it's been stolen from. Like, you can make a different movie. Like, different shots. Yeah. So, okay, I'm on your side halfway at least.
Sorry, they stole the movie. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
From the game. But,
you know what you stole from me with a movie, Josh? You know what you stole from me with a movie? Mr. I want to argue no matter what, even if it takes away from the show because I want to talk about video games. You stole hours from my life with our drunk classic.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
So tell the crew.
Shall I go first
Belly.
with this? Okay, let me tell you about
Belly.
Let me tell you about Belly, okay? This is a movie that has been very prevalent in my life because as I went into stoner life, etc., I used to hang around some kids that weren't white, right? And so this is considered a classic among the people that aren't white. It's a movie we discussed before. It's always seemingly on when you go into a place where people are smoking a lot of weed. It's in the background somewhere. and that's where it belongs. It belongs in the background. And I say this because of it's not a good movie. Let's just get that out there. We're all gonna say it, but it has a good part at least, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you about something.
With the glow in the dark. That is it.
So I want you to remember
it is all downhill.
I want you to remember a time of before Netflix and chill, right? When you might invite a nice lady over and we're going to watch a movie and see what happens, right? And we know what's going to happen, hopefully. But this was the movie, 100% success rate movie for me and
Why?
a lot
Because
of my friends.
DMX has a great ass?
That's exactly right. So the movie starts out, I mentioned last week, Hype Williams is the director. And Hype Williams, it was an acclaimed music video, mostly hip-hop producer. He created incredible music videos. And you can see that it's evident throughout the movie. I hope you guys will agree. There's at least some pretty dang good shots. If everything else is trash, most of it was trash. The shots were pretty good. What are you going to say, Jordan?
Yeah. There's a bunch of just like moments where DMX is still or just kind of like in these poses, and you're like, that's an album cover. That's an album cover.
Straight up.
They actually look like album covers.
Straight up. Like it's
right there.
There's so much wrong with this movie, but it honestly is very pretty. It's very pretty.
Yeah, it is. It's, artistically, they hit the mark I think they were going for in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and
they were going for. No, that's good. That they were going for.
Yeah, they were going
artistically, that they were going for. Hit the mark, stretch. That they were going for, we're back in the box.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of this movie is sophomoric. I'll hit that, put a pin in that. But I'll go back to you. The opening scene is that really cool robbery. You're robbing, what is it, a strip club? I think.
Strip club. Yeah, it was a strip
all
club.
Black lights. You got the white eyes. The song was perfect,
ready?
right?
Are you ready?
Such a good intro. And then, like, a few things happen. Some gangster stuff happens. You go in the basement, whatever. And then you have the sex scene, the dual sex scene. And I've seen this movie over 20 times. I've only watched it in full maybe 3 times. Because that movie gets the job done. Clapping starts happening after you see. By the time DMX's butt comes out, you should already be into the business. So there's that. That's why it's such an important movie to me. Because anyway, going back to the whole thing is sophomoric. So there's like forcefully inserted poetry by Nas and DMX, which in itself wasn't bad, but like really. And then the narration by Nas. Nas has a wonderful voice, but really, the gangster scenes were great. All the gangster shootouts and stuff, really cool. But like after it's over, you're like, what happened? The ending. What happened? Where's DMX at the end? What, we're going to Africa now? I would say no spoilers, but I'm going to spoil it because it didn't.
Explanation leading up to Africa. It's just a random.
It's definitely someone's like daily journal that I'm going to make a movie about. I want to go to, Anyway, T-Baw's great. But I wouldn't spoil this ending because it reminded me very much of Layer Cake. But Nas gets shot at the end, and that would have been a pretty cool ending, like all because of this one little thing that happened way back when. But he survives. Like, why do we even do it if he's going to survive that?
Also, that he didn't.
Yeah, it wasn't even his fault, Doc.
He didn't even do it.
So much of the movie was what. But there's so many scenes that I love, like when the Jamaican guy's place is getting run down.
The barber in that scene.
Yeah, I'm ready for fun. So good. Bong, bong. That song, good soundtrack. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. It's a popcorn, and that's a barely for me.
Yeah, DMX always... Are you going?
Go ahead. DMX?
Yeah, DMX just always struck me as an odd superstar. Like, he's just... Some of his music lyrics, like things in this movie, there are just some real wild stuff in here that it makes you cringe, and it would not fly now. Yeah, no, R.I.P. He was a superstar. Like, I don't think he would be. It was a time. It was a time and place thing. Like DMX, I don't think
Absolutely.
would be that big of a superstar today. But like, he was a movie star, and his music was just selling like crazy and selling out arena stuff. So, I'm sure. Every time I see him in something or like in movies, I'm like, how did he become the movie star guy? You know?
My theory
Um,
is that he was at the time viewed as he's the next Pac, and Pac was a natural actor, and X
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's a natural
Definitely
actor.
different rap style for sure. There.
No, yeah. I'm yes, definitely different rap style, but they were both definitely obvious poets. They had real things to say. Not the same style, but you could tell
no.
they were both very authentic. And X is for real. He always was for real, which is at the time a premium. People would pay a premium to see someone who, like, legitimately, this dude's for real. He's not talking mess like a lot of rappers do. So I think
X
there's
gonna give
that.
it to you.
He's gonna give it to you.
So
X gonna give it to you.
is that the key for you, Jordan? Is DMX?
No, and he has some there's classic scenes in this movie. There are a few, and some good and some dialogue that you hear in rap musics and references, and that are still very prevalent. It's culturally still very relevant. But
Yeah.
it's is it a good movie? No.
No.
I give it a popcorn as well. Yeah.
A popcorn as well. Okay, I'll be quick. You guys obviously can probably see by my facial expressions that I'm shocked by how you even found a way to compliment this hot garbage. Because everything after I see now why I said last week it's always playing in the background. I mean, it's akin to. It made me want to go back and maybe watch Cradle to the Grave over again. Just so I could. Was this a terrible movie with Steven Seagal and DMX that I just watched a bunch of times because I was a dumbass kid that didn't realize what trash this was?
That's exactly what it is. You're right. You nailed it. That's it. Truly.
With
We were young stoners.
Gabrielle, at least Gabrielle Union is in Cradle to the Grave, right? Like she's
T-Box
actually a
is
good
just
actress.
as hot as Gabrielle. Oh, good actor. I thought you were going for beautiful. Okay.
Wasn't womanizing her, but I was gonna say at least she's a talented actor alongside Steven Seagal, who we can all agree is just in it for martial arts is terrible. DMX is a terrible actor, but gosh, it was so bad. All right, just a couple notes. Terrible acting, terrible writing, terrible dialogue, terrible line delivery.
Yeah.
And
All
then
true.
I just wrote how many and gave up in the middle of that note.
Yeah.
How
many?
And then I
how many more
continued to
minutes
go,
is this?
but it's funny because I have another how many, and that's slow motion scenes, airplanes landing. How many do I need?
Yeah.
It's like
for sure,
four airplanes landing for no reason. There's slow motion scenes that don't need to be in slow motion at all. I'm not gonna rank this. And then I wrote, I have to. It's a popcorn.
It's a popcorn. Yeah.
It was just
I feel you.
so bad.
So for me, yeah, it is bad, but because I've watched it so much, it's one of those movies. It's not that I have like, I do have a place for it in my heart, but I recognize it's awful. But there are lines that it sticks with me. When DMX says, I'm gonna translate it into white people text. When it rains, dudes get wet. Love that line. And then my favorite is when the weird drug dealer out in Nebraska sees Method Man or sees DMX and everybody rolling deep, and he's eating the banana, and he's like, I don't like that shit. Nah, I don't like that shit. I say that all the time.
Precursor.
Yeah, all the time I say that. I don't like that shit. I don't like that shit. Anyway.
It was a Cat Williams precursor.
Thank you for indulging me this week, guys.
Well, I think we're all entitled to a flop, right? Jordan made us watch Dude, Where's My Car?
But that puts us all, though, currently, I'm at 4. Jordan, you're at 4, correct? And Fry's at 1 or 2?
Yeah.
2. 4-4-2 is the score, guys.
We need to keep it on paper somewhere, please, so we can keep a running tally. Someone write it down so we're not constantly guessing. All right.
All
Yeah,
right.
I hadn't seen that. But we were watching other films this week. I went ahead and reviewed Vacation Friends 2. It was on the docket for a possible Butter on Top for this week. We decided against it because my co-host hadn't seen Vacation Friends Part 1. Vacation Friends Part 1 was a funny movie to just put on in the background. You get your John Cena, you got your Rel. You didn't need a Part 2. We got a Part 2 anyways. I gave it a popcorn to keep it nice and short. Marcus, played by Rel, is back with a whole new attitude. And anyone that's an adult in a marriage knows it's nice to have like a vacation couple that you can go do stuff with. That maybe like the partners can get together and do their thing, and you and the other partner that have more in common can go do your thing. Yeah. And like it's a nice change of pace. So you're not always having the same conversations you have in your home while you're on vacation. And they play on that. And it's kind of like, oh, these friends get you outside of your comfort zone. And that's fine. But then Steve Buscemi. And I got overly excited seeing Steve Buscemi in the film. And it was a letdown. I was like, yes, Steve Buscemi. All right, here we go. And then he just plays a totally annoying character that wasn't as funny as he was meant to be. And he plays John Cena's wife's dad, who he needs to impress and doesn't like him. And Rel's job, Marcus's job, is on the line. That being said, it's a lot of nonsense. It's a lot of best friend stuff. There's maybe 3 funny parts. Didn't really have to pay attention. Popcorn. Next, I watched Chip and Dale Rescuers Down Under, the reboot. And there's a lot of references to them realizing this is a reboot. This came out in 2022. I just hadn't got around to seeing it. It was a Disney Channel original movie. It was a Disney Channel original movie for a reason. But there is a lot of nostalgia tied into it. They poke a lot of fun at Sonic the Hedgehog with the teeth. If you guys remember that whole storyline.
You want to explain that real quick? It's been a little while. Maybe people don't know.
So Sonic Part 1, much, much better than Sonic Part 2. Sonic Part 2, you don't really have to watch it. It's a money grab for sure. But the original Sonic Part 1, the first trailer featured a humanoid-looking Sonic with human teeth. And people were grossed off and turned away. And they Twitter rioted against this film until they had to go back and spend millions of dollars re-editing Sonic the Hedgehog because it had such a viscerally negative reaction. Right?
It was bad.
They poke a lot of
very uncomfortable.
They poke a lot of fun at it, and they poke a lot of fun at, I want to say, a certain country that does a lot of bootleg films from American films, bootleg characters. In fact, the villain in this story is is a bootleg character themselves, and they're very turned off by what has happened, and they go by the name of Sweet Pete. And I'm not going to spoil it. I know it's a year old, but when you watch this movie, I think if you respect movies and you like cinema and you've been watching it your whole life, you'll really laugh hard at who Sweet Pete is.
Is it really only a year old?
Yeah, 2022.
Wow.
When Sweet Pete comes around. It was fine. You know, I gave it a poppin' one. Lots of humans and tunes interacting together in the same world. So it's a world that exists almost like Roger Rabbit. And it's very aware of itself. It's like, we were superstars during Rescuers Down Under. And they make fun of like 90s animation. And that's kind of funny. They're like, you remember that weird 90s animation where things look too real? And then like you didn't really know where the characters were looking? Like it looked very real, but just something wasn't right. And they make fun of that. They make fun of the Coca-Cola bear quite a bit.
Oh.
Seth Rogen makes fun of himself. And you can kind of see you got a lot of good friends together, lots of comedians, and they just started riffing off each other at points. And it was kind of funny, and they made the movie Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Dale, you know, struggles with being the one that always gets made fun of and had to act dumb on the cartoon. And Chip struggles with no one liking him because he was the smart character.
Yeah.
And it's very funny and it's relatable. You get Monty, and it's adult humor with Monty this time around. Monty, you know, if you remember the Rescuers Down Under, he's always smelling the cheese and it lifts him off the ground.
He was
All
my
right. Well,
favorite.
it's kind of they make Monty a little bit of with the cheese.
Oh
if you
no!
catch my drift. And it's funny. It's funny. It's so adults will laugh and kids won't get it. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Do it carefully.
Well-raised kids won't get it.
But overall, it's for the nostalgia. I give it a poppin' 1. It was funny at parts. You gotta love John Mulaney and Andy Samberg doing the voices of Chip and Dale over there. So it was a good
I love
time.
that.
I liked it quite a bit. Now, Jordan, what were you watching?
So I got to watch something that I believe we both finished up, was The Witcher season 3
Ooh.
on Netflix. Yeah, so they did that thing that I've talked about on this show that I hate, where they release a season in 2 volumes for some reason, and it was only like 2 weeks apart. Like they didn't even make it. Like it just seemed kind of
That's
unnecessary,
weird.
especially here. Yeah. It's the supposedly it's the farewell to the role Henry Cavill. Cavill. I don't know how you pronounce it. Cavill. It's the role he was meant to play. Forget Superman, whatever else he's played. This is a fantastic role that he loved. You could tell he brought so much love to this role.
He has PhD knowledge of the series, the book series.
It is. Yeah. You can tell he brings that confidence, and just you can tell he's having, like, his character is not one that shows that he's amused. But you can tell he's just having a blast doing this role.
I'm sure.
It's devastating that he is not going to be there to see this through. Supposedly, hopefully they work something out. You never know. I always had a problem with that being said. I've always had a problem with the female main character, Yennefer. Her kind of like fickle motivations. That's like, oh, 2 episodes. This is what she really wants, and she destroys everything and everyone to get it. And then 2 episodes later, it's like, oh, I kind of feel bad about it. I want the complete opposite. And it's constantly, she's just flip-flopping around just to kind of drive a little more plot.
She reminds me of a Daenerys from Game of Thrones. You know, like super
I can
powerful.
Totally see that. Mm-hmm. Totally. The action is awesomely brutal. It's an improvement on the last season, which wasn't terrible, but it got a little in the weeds trying to build too many different story branches that now that we know are obviously not going to get fully fleshed out. I found episode 5, kind of gathering with all the, like, it's like a big party scene where you're getting all these hidden agendas, and it retells the same story a few times from different perspectives.
All while they're having sex.
Yes. Can't leave that out.
So Game of Thrones first season. Yeah, okay.
It's honestly super weird to me. Like, it's funny that you mentioned that is something you liked. I was like, this is really weird. They're like, they don't mesh together, and the point that it's convoluted. Like, they're trying to be too artistic, and you convoluted your point.
Yeah.
I can totally see what you're saying, but it just made for good, just tension, within like the different things going on. The action in the next episode, the big finale it's not the finale episode, but it's just like the big culminating action sequence of the whole season was great. It was fantastic. It's as good as any throughout the whole series, but it just doesn't give you that, like, satisfied, like, okay, Henry is moving on from this role. Someone else is going to take it over. It's just, you don't feel like it did it for you. So I give this a popcorn and a beer.
I'm with you.
The last 2 episodes were not good.
No,
that was my biggest frustration. So my lasting memory of Henry Cavill as The Witcher is him getting his ass whooped by a total punk. Like, someone that was an ancillary character that wasn't super strong, and then all of a sudden he's ultra powerful, and he just beats the heck out of Henry Cavill's character. You kind of miss the Witcher serum to see something happen. And then the final 2 episodes is just him trying to heal. And I was like, this is such a lame way to go out. That was it for me.
Okay, so I haven't seen it, so I don't have much context. Maybe you can correct me. But I hate it as a plot device when the, lesser character, physically speaking, gets the powers or whatever, but we're like, we end up totally disqualifying the fact that Witcher Man has been fighting for decades.
Mhm.
He knows how to fight. It's not just the fact that he's strong or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we're
Yeah.
discounting the fact that this dude knows how to do judo or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I hate when they throw that out the window. I hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, it happens, and it's not even a good fight scene. It's good for,
No.
like, you think it's going to be good for, like, 60 seconds, and then after that, it's like, wow, this is a really, it's just him getting his ass kicked. For,
Yeah, he
like,
gets totally
4
handled.
minutes. Yeah.
That really sucks.
And
I'm sorry to hear that.
And it's literally, like, it's not his, I don't want to say it's his last fight scene, but it's his last impactful fight scene on the series.
Yeah.
I think they really tried to make his very final fight scene impactful, and it just wasn't. It was lame.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Agree. Yeah. So next, I watched what Fry said is you can't review an anthology series in pre-production, but I'm going to do my best. Okay, I'm going to keep it overall viewpoint. I watched Black Mirror season 6, and if you don't know what Black Mirror is, it is modern.
Everyone knows what Black
Twilight
Mirror
Zone.
is.
Okay, modern Twilight Zone with like a technology, usually a technology spin on it.
Yeah.
It was five quality. They really went for quality over quantity this season, which they had been since like the first season. They tapered off how many episodes they put out.
Yeah.
5 quality and very provocative as ever episodes. Each have a ton to unpack on their own and probably could be reviewed as like a short movie individually, but you know, there's funny, there's scary, and there's just completely effed up that you
I'm
just walk
surprised
away
it's
like,
funny
wow.
at all. I've never heard of a funny
Oh, no.
Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, there's some humorous.
few,
There's a couple
yeah.
humorous ones. Yeah, sprinkled in there. Like the Star Trek one was always like a kind
That
of funny
was not
one.
funny at
and-
all to
That's
me. That was
terrifying.
terrifying.
Really?
Yeah.
That was That was one of the most terrifying ones.
Dude, he's a
I like that one.
rapist. He's a rapist.
So much more
So
than that.
silly.
Yeah, and there's
But-
so much worse to it, but like that's
But
essentially
you know,
like
that's why the show is good, because it brings up things like this where we all have different thoughts on things. You know, that's cool.
yeah.
It's an obvious parody though. This is what you're
Jesse
getting is why-
Plemons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He's
Matt
such a
Damon,
weird
too.
looking dude. I love it.
he is. He's strange. Great actor though. Shout out to him.
Yeah, he's
crushing it.
Besides there's one episode that's very obviously not. It's hard to decide which episode is the best out of these. It's 5 episodes. There's the one in the middle. It's I'm not going to spoil it. But you'll watch this and you'll be like, okay, that wasn't the best one out of these. These episodes also kind of tried to stay in like an 80s, 90s. It seemed like for the most part. And they're just like didn't necessarily have very much technology involved in them. It was just kind of like, let me sprinkle a little bit of technology in each of these. Like besides the one that's obviously in space, that is a lot of technology
Space.
surrounding everything. It's just kind of like, okay, yeah, we have this really like crazy Twilight Zone-y plot, and then like we'll sprinkle like a rotary phone as like the technology that's like that's not a
Jordan,
actual
there's an
thing, but for
episode where they're
example.
editing like a huge documentary on a laptop with like very expensive editing equipment.
But it's also is inconsequential to the plot
That's
entirely. It's just
fair.
like, oh yeah,
That's-
they're
but
just
I
making
didn't
a
see that as the
documentary.
80s, I guess, is my only issue with your review. I apologize.
Let me ask you
Oh, yeah,
this.
no.
Speaking of that sort of situation, season 2 did a few here and there hints that this is all the same universe. Was there any indication of that this
Yeah,
time
yeah.
around?
Yes.
I think seasons
Yeah.
1 through 4 you get the same universe. It's season 5 was kind of hard. You got that from this so far? So far, I haven't seen the thread.
Season 6, there is the last episode, the very last episode about a demon making a girl do some things. There
A
is some like
demon?
news flashes like yeah. She gets possessed and has to commit these 3 crimes in order to and then it's hard to connect that to technology now
Okay.
looking back on it. I just watched it last night. I'm like, I don't see how it connects. But there is some like a thing comes on the TV and it's news and it connects to like a story from
Right.
before.
At least,
and
in the very
I'm
least,
pretty
they're,
sure I
like, shouting
noticed
it
a
out,
couple
you know.
in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. There are some very big stars in this, and some very talented, familiar faces, and then some less familiar, very talented faces. They could be famous in Europe and whatnot, but
Right.
everybody really brought their A game in each episode. I
Mhm.
give this season a popcorn and 2. I would give it a 3. It was very close, but that middle episode, the ending just didn't pay off for me the
Yeah,
way that
everyone
I
pooping
hoped.
in the last scene was just weird. Cool. What else you got?
Yeah, I also watched a an oldie but goodie, a classic. I watched Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. That is part one of Ace Ventura. I feel like, is it just me or just maybe like, I don't feel like everybody, when you say Ace Ventura, everybody thinks of When Nature Calls.
Nope.
I feel like, no, you don't think
No,
so?
I think of
Nope.
Finkel. I have the
Finkel
shirt.
is
Okay.
Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my
Say
generation. Maybe
hello
it's more
to
like my
Captain Winky.
Yeah, I definitely. Until recently, I thought Nature Calls was the cheap, like, okay, we have another one. But the first one was in my early younger age opinion. I thought the first one was way better. But
See,
yeah. Anyway,
I've seen Nature Calls like 100 times. Like I know it almost line for line. I've
Yeah.
seen this one maybe 5 times,
Wow.
4,
Well,
a
still,
handful of times.
it's a lot.
I've seen it all the way through like 3 or 4 times, and then I've
Right.
seen bits and pieces of it like 100 times. It's
Who's
great.
it?
Courtney
Tone Loc?
Cox,
Tone
Tone
Loc.
Loc is in it. Yes,
Wow,
Courtney Cox
dang.
is a doll. Yeah, Funky Cole Medina. Courtney Cox is a doll.
Yep.
My favorite scene is the okay. Let me do this in slow motion.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, his sound effects. Oh boy.
Great. Love that scene. I thought the woman that plays Ray Finkel as a
Mm.
man is like super attractive. Is she not? It's like, how would you not
Absolutely
fall for
attractive.
that? How would you not fall for, it's funny because at the end they find out she's a man and they're all going, like, oh my God, it was a guy. Which now it wouldn't play in today's
Absolutely
society.
not.
Like their overreaction to them finding out that they kissed a guy.
There's a documentary
game's
called
changed.
Transparent that I watched before we started this show, and apparently that was very harmful to the trans community, like that scene in
Whoa.
particular, and much of the '90s proved
Yeah.
to be very harmful for the trans community because it made them out to be some joke. And
Dude,
in
definitely.
Transparent, they really talk about it. It's like, hey, you made us out to be monsters, so the public believed you.
For sure. Like throw away like how harsh, no, don't throw it away, but what I'm saying is like how harshly homosexuals were treated in the 90s. Just so
Yeah.
flippantly like like oppressed. I'm so sorry for the things that I said in the 90s as a child. But like trans people was even more of a like throwaway. Like, yeah, they're weird. Oppressive term here, oppressive term there is funny because they're in my head. It was like they're not real. They're like they don't exist. I thought they were a fantasy thing that didn't exist. Turns out,
it's a product of the times for sure.
The 90s were rough as far as that was concerned because I think that, like, not saying the 90s were any easier on the LGBTQ community, but they really had to deal with it from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And on the 80s, you saw a turn not so much away from that, but really leaning into the T part of LGBTQ. And it was bad. Like, it caused quite a bit of terrible thought processes to occur, and then it created almost a barrier to evolution, to acceptance, because of how film propagates things.
Yeah.
Right. But other than that, besides all that we just unpacked a little bit, it's just a funny, ridiculous concept of a movie that was totally dead in the water. Like I think somebody came up with this, and Jim Carrey was like he took it and he added his flavor to it and just made he personally and individually willed this movie into what it is, and got the sequel made to it, which was
incredible.
super. Yeah, it was
I
a
didn't
hard
know
reach
that the
as a sequel.
Wachutu were biters.
Classic. I love it.
Dude, like, think of these two movies, the first one and the second one,
Yeah.
truly on like the very short list of movies that only one human could pull off.
Yeah.
Jim
Absolutely.
Carrey is such an amazing treasure to humanity as a whole. He gave us something that no one else
You
could
have any
give
more
us.
gum? That's personal.
This role in this movie specifically, I think part one is what kind of drove, because Robin Williams, rest in peace, Robin Williams, sweet man. He Jim Carrey's success drove him into. I'm not going to go too far down the rabbit hole here. Jim Carrey's success drove him into a depression, a professional depression, and
Robin
this role
Williams?
specifically, yes, he has mentioned this role specifically as like, oh my God, I could never compete with this guy's comedic genius,
That's so
especially in like
funny.
a movie type role. Yeah.
Because Robin
Yeah.
Williams is equal, in my opinion, as far as legendariness, right? But, you know, people who are really good, like David Letterman, never, ever considers himself as funny, and he's probably the best talk
Super
show host
funny,
of all
yeah.
time, if not top three. Anyway.
Laces Out. I give this, just for being a classic, Popcorn and 2.
Popcorn and 2, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, I love it. That probably could have been a drunk classic. We could have talked about that for one of our 10-minute
sure.
segments.
He's butthurt. I hear it.
But Josh, what were you watching?
Okay, so I caught up with you guys a little bit here and there. I watched Air with a bunch of guys who used to have great careers and are still viable humans. That's a weird way to start. Everyone in this movie was a great actor. Chris Tucker, Bateman, Affleck, Damon, etc.
Yeah.
What's this movie about? I'll tell you what this movie's about. A bunch of people planning something in an office. Now, if I told you that's the pitch of this movie, would you tell me that it's a Popcorn and 3? No.
No.
It is a Popcorn and 3. I don't know how. There's so many micro bursts of wonderful throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just about some guys in an office trying to keep their jobs and make a big gamble on something that's a good gut feeling. Matt Damon did a great job of not being some, like, a lot of times in a movie like this, they create this character who's like this legendary, no one counts on him. And that's kind of what happens. Turns out he's great. And they probably oversell him compared to the real human that did this thing. However, even in this movie, he's just some guy.
No, dog. Sonny's like a god in this world.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. As is the guy who. Okay, so a better example is Ben Affleck as the Nike Man,
Phil
CEO
Knight.
of Nike Man, Phil Knight. So Phil Knight is
Uncle Phil,
the big boy, right? He's around.
Yeah.
He's been around. He's still around. He'll be around for a while. I liked it. I liked it where like that part no one will be remembered. He's like, well, I'd like to think that I'd be remembered. I've done some things. That was pretty good. But they do such a good job of just making him. He's just a guy. They're all just guys, but they're attached. They attach themselves to this wonderful thing. They pour their blood into it, and they make this incredible. They find the right. I don't want to say the right horse because Michael Jordan is a monument to humanity, just like Jim Carrey is. I love that Jim Carrey wasn't in it. I'm going to talk too long about this movie, so I'm going to cut myself short. This is a Popcorn and 3. You got to see it. It's hard to explain why. Beautiful. Despite the fact that most of the movie takes place in an office, you can't stop watching for a moment.
Shout out Viola Davis.
Shout out Viola Davis. Every time you see her on screen, she just has the power. Even on Suicide Squad, she was like, I want to see what she has to say real quick before I turn this garbage movie off. Okay. Also, I watched Thor: Love and Thunder again. I was, like I usually do, I'm watching movies with my dad, and he likes to watch cheap action and stuff like that. Thor: Love and Thunder, the second time around, Not as good as the first time around. It is such a silly movie, which the MCU could use a little silly. Taika Waititi was just given the biggest check on earth and told to play around in the sandbox, and that's exactly what happened, which makes the movie not a popcorn, but a popcorn one. It's not bad. It's silly, doesn't really contribute a whole lot to the MCU canon. It's totally missable. If you don't watch it, that's fine, but it is a spectacle. There's some cool scenes, there's some good CG, there's some okay fights. They do some fun things with the hammer. They talk about relationships in a way that's not really spoken about so casually as it is in this movie today. Polyamory, polysexuality, and screaming goats and orgies. Russell Crowe, why did you play Zeus so poorly? Christian Bale's amazing character design was wasted.
On Gore.
Yeah.
Wasted. But still good. There was so many things that were that, blah, 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 blah. It's a popcorn in one. That's all I got to say about that. I think lastly, yes, because we talked about Belly before. Remember Belly? What'd you think about Belly, Fry?
Thought it was a really bad movie. On to Wheel of Time.
Now let's finally get to something great. I finished watching The Wheel of Time. It's a book series by Robert Jordan, and true to the style of these days, the first season of Wheel of Time is the entirety of the first book of the Wheel of Time. They use a whole season to explain the first book, which is the way we should be doing it. When Harry Potter comes back, it needs to be a show. One season is one book. You know. Anyway, I'm just getting my opinions up.
I think that's the I think that's the goal.
I hope that's the goal. At least a four episodes of like good solid television. Anyway, back to Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time is great. I don't know how you guys felt about the movie. I'd like to hear your thoughts after this. However, I read the series, not in full. I read 70% of the book series. The books are like this. And like Harry Potter, they add 300 pages every time there's a new book. So the last time I read a book, it was almost 2,000 pages. I had to stop. It drags on. So what the series has done so far is fix the pacing and add character where there is none. But they keep, somehow, visually at least, they keep the setting without giving you 400 pages of exposition talking about why this room is important. They just show you how amazing this room is. Like, just visually, and like the gravitas that every actor in the room is playing to this room or this setting or this event. Like, they do such a good job. It's wonderful. I think maybe there's not quite enough weight put on that other shows have shown. I still call it a popcorn and one, with a potential for the next season, which is coming up in September, by the way. So, good timeliness. I think next season is going to be a popcorn and two. That's my bet.
You know, I like you putting it at a popcorn and one. I would agree with that. I don't remember it being amazing, and I don't remember it being bad. I watched it episode by episode because it came out on a weekly basis on Amazon. I remember being disappointed in the ending, and then you told me there's going to be a season 2. So, since you said that, I decided to give it a popcorn and one way back. But I think it's Jordan's Drunk Classic, right?
It sure is.
All right. What did you decide on?
Okay, so I'm going to stay I'm going to stick on a theme here, and that theme is Denzel Washington, who is the star of Our Butter on Top. There are so many directions I could take this in. Denzel Washington is one of my favorite actors of all time. Gosh, I'm going to go with a slightly obscure, maybe just to me it's obscure because of the times, 1998 thriller called Fallen.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go with something else. Okay.
Yeah.
Fallen.
I thought you were going to go with, what's the one with Russell Crowe? Virtuosity, but that's fine.
Virtuosity is not a good movie.
Of course it's not!
Well, since you mentioned it, Jordan, why don't you just kill it and tell us what the butter on top is?
All right. He is a seeker of justice with a passion for punctuality, we'll say,
Yeah.
and efficiency. He is the Equalizer, Part 3.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Equalizer Part 3.
Yeah, we're continuing the tradition of old guys making action films, and they're brutal as F.
I don't think we have an action star under 40 at this point. But,
No, it's over, dude.
but we are all under 40 in this room, and we look forward to you joining us for Equalizer 3 and for Fallen. So as always, we will see you at the movies. You bring the popcorn, and we'll bring the beer.
Love you.